Hey guys, Jack here, playing Interplanetary again today. Doing a 4-man free-for-all, and as you can see we managed to reap some pretty heavy destruction on the other players. Hope you'll stick around and see how we did it. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm looking at the other players, I'm seeing where their orbits are, then I'm going and selecting my science, and I take a look at my capital city, and I see that it's on a small island, so it's not really fit for building. Luckily, my two mid-sized cities are together, so I decided to go there. So I pop a power plant down, and then send my mines toward them, and then that way on the next turn, turn 2, I could connect my mine to my city and get more connections, which will let your city grow quicker. And then you can see from there, I just keep adding mines. Here I'm adding the upgrades to the mines so that they extract more material. I haven't quite added the efficiency one. And now the next turn, once I have that all in, about turn 6, that's when I like to do that. And then from there, I go back to my capital city. I can give it one connection with a solar plant. And because it's on the island, like I said, I place some offshore mines around it. And I'm making sure to leave enough room to try and fit a kinetic defense system in there. And then I figure that should be good. That way, my capital city will be growing. It's doing a little something. And it's looking good. You'll notice that in between my two cities, I am placing a lot of mines, really spread out lots of solar panels, solar systems. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to build a giant network in between those two cities because that's my biggest continent and there's lots of room. What you'll see here on turn 8 is we've researched Science Institute, the technology, so my two biggest cities, I go plop that down, and that gives us a huge boost to science, and that's just, pretty much the only way to start every game. It's a great move. After that, we get active radar scan the next turn, which again is another 60% boost, and it's a temporary 3-turn thing, and I do that again on the two biggest cities, and now we're just mowing through science. Next thing I'm researching is the Science Institute to add to the spy dishes, and then that's another way to get some more science because my plan for this game is to go for coil cannons, and those require a little bit of science. They're a little far ways down the tech tree, so I want to get some good science going. And in the meantime, while I'm doing that, you see I'm still adding my mines. I want to get to about 40 turns. That's when I want my material to run out, and you'll see I do a little check there and I'm perfect. So now I have about enough mines. I don't really need to worry about that. So what I'm doing here now is adding a bunch of solar plants because it's always good to have more connections, and it's always good to have more energy, especially when I'm going to start getting my defense grid up because as you can see, people are shooting. Now, the AIs love to start shooting early, but what you'll see is it doesn't really do anything. That's a direct hit, and I take a little bit of damage to my city, which is annoying, but it doesn't destroy anything. And they're spending energy, they're spending materials doing that. Well, me, well, check this out. I'm getting a fat defense grid up. I've got mines everywhere. I'm earning more materials than them, and I've already got most of the sensitive areas covered. And a couple more turns, and I'll be pretty much invulnerable to them. And then I'm going to switch to making more coil cannons. So you'll see green is looking like the biggest threat. They're launching a lot of projectiles and we're about to come into the next orbit, so we'll see what happens there, but in general not too many things are coming towards me. I see that some missiles were launched that turn, however, so I changed my research to the ion defense, which is the thing that shoots down missiles just to stay a little safer, and then beyond that just continuing to expand the defense network of kinetic projectiles because there's always tons of rail games in every game, and getting more solar plants so I can start building my coil cannons eventually and having lots of power to do so. Next thing I go for is nanostructuring because that gives you another upgrade on your solar plants, which doubles your power output. So you go from 175 power from each plant to 350, which is a big change, and it basically means you never have to worry about energy. And I pretty much always go for solar plants instead of nuclear power because nuclear power requires materials every turn, and what you might see at the end of the game is I'm actually going to run out of materials, and so if I was relying on nuclear power I would then have no energy. Whereas solar plants, it's a one-time fee to get them going and then you have power forever. You'll see here I've run out of my 3-turn science boost program, so I go back, I click it in a few more big cities, and then I just keep adding more solar plants, more kinetic defenses, and now we've got a pretty steady defense grid. That's like a fifth of my planet, the main continent between the two large cities. It's looking super defensive, and now I'm adding in the ion defenses, and what I always like to do for ion defenses is to get the increased radius because it's pretty small with the default size, and it doesn't actually cover a whole city if you're right next to it, so you kind of need it. And then another good thing to do for cities is to stack 2 missiles on top of it. You'll see here a lot of missiles are flying this turn. Luckily, most of them don't go to me, but we do get 4 landing on us. Oh, the last one missed. Only 3. Couple skirted right by the edges, causing a little bit of damage, but not too much. And then 1 got blocked, which is always nice to see. And then you'll see here we finally click on coil cannons. So turn 15, that's when we're actually about to research weapons, and then going to start shooting at other people. Before then, we're just going to let our enemies shoot each other. I'm just going to build defensively and have a nice time. What you'll also notice is I've gotten the energy defense now, and so I'm upgrading all of my solar plants to get more. And you'll see we have 4,000 energy this turn. So let's see how much we get next turn when those upgrades come in. Also taking a look at my satellites and my intel, and I'm seeing I don't have anything, so I'm going to need to build a few more just to get a sense of what's happening. And you'll see our first coil cannons are now coming out. I have a pretty nice defensive net, as I've said, with lots of ion defenses against missiles, which are the green ones, lots of kinetic defense against railguns and coil guns, which are yellow, and then I have tons of power plants everywhere. So I'm just readjusting some of the connections to make it easy for me to place coil guns, and then I'm throwing them down here. And one thing that is a disadvantage against coil cannons is they only have 1 power slot. So with railguns, you can just have 1 power supply linking all of them because there's 2 slots, so you can just keep chaining them together, whereas for coil guns, you need a separate power plant for each one. So still adding a few more telescope arrays, get a bit more science, make researching better, and we can see what we're hitting on the enemy, which is always nice, and then a few more ion defenses. And a good use for the floating plants, I don't even bother putting any upgrades on them because they don't output that much power, but it's a good spot to put a power grid because, throw it on the ocean, it's covered by a defense, and then it allows you to connect more things to it. Again, always keeping on top of the science project that ends in 3 turns because it gives you a 60% boost, so it's really worth doing. And then you'll see we've gotten some upgrades research for coil guns, so I add some upgrades to a couple coil guns, and now we have some online, so we're doing our first targeting. Luckily, we have Hubble right next to us, so we can aim all 5 guns, and we get a big hit. Unfortunately, only 2 that are hitting anything, but that's kind of to be expected given we have no upgrades on them, so our area of effect isn't too big, and we don't have that many fragments coming out, but that's okay. See, we get a lot of damage on our city. We have a missile that landed on Orakala, which is annoying, so in retaliation I'm going to throw an ion defense because I don't want any of my cities to get destroyed, even if they're not that important. Don't tell that to them. And then here we come into our coil cannons. We're adding a few upgrades, but they're pretty expensive, so we'll do it piecemeal. But luckily 2 of our cannons are fully upgraded, so we'll see what happens with Hubble this time. Now I've gotten all my defenses upgraded, I've gotten my coils up, so now I'm going for Asteroid weapons, so we'll see what happens with that. You'll see we do damage to 4 buildings, not that great, but luckily we blocked 5 attacks on our hometown, so we did some good damage. And it looks like the US and Africa got messed up for Hubble, which is always good. Over here, I'm just going to my coil cannons, I'm trying to upgrade all of them, and then from there I'm just going to add a few each turn until we just have a massive amount of coil cannons, because that's the thing with kinetic projectiles, you just want to have a metric shit ton. Because if you have enough, you're going to overwhelm their defenses, they're going to run out of energy, or you're just going to hit all around their defenses where, it's not quite covered, so you're going to end up dealing lots of damage. And then once you start dealing a bit of damage, destroy a few power plants, their power grid is broken, then things just start tumbling and you just absolutely start demolishing them. You see there we managed to destroy 2 buildings, which is nice, starting to deal some damage. And of course, we're going to add more telescope arrays because I'm looking at that asteroid diversion and I'm thinking, what, it would be fun to launch asteroids onto the enemy. I want to get that quicker. We're not too close to anybody, so we launch a few random attacks at Alloy there, most of them aiming towards Hubble. We'll see if we can get them into the right orbit and slam it. Oh, and they all just miss and go into the sun. Generally, if they're close enough, the way I like to aim is just 100% power, aim straight at them, and then you count slightly for planetary movement, and that's really surefire way to get successful. But another good one is launching all the kinetic projectiles just into the actual orbit path of the planet. If they're moving the right way, your guns are facing the right way, and there's no other planets, in close orbit that are going to divert your projectiles, it makes really likely that you're going to hit because they just fall into the same orbit path as the planet, so it just makes it inevitable, and that can deal some really good damage. And as you'll see, we're just wrapping up the defense field there, a couple spots that didn't have ion defenses, and then another coil gun, and there you see that's with my 100% power aimed straight at it, and you'll see with great results. 3 buildings damaged and 4 destroyed. All of them hit. Really awesome. And that's one other thing you can do. The less confident you are with your weapon shots, you can just kind of stagger where you're aiming, a little bit closer to the planet as it's moving, a little bit farther along the orbit, and then, you guarantee some hits, if not all of them. Finally, here on turn 23, we get our first super weapon, an asteroid diversion. We place it down right in the middle of our defenses. If a solar system or solar planet gets broken down, we'll have something else to connect it to. There's tons of ion defenses and kinetic defenses. There's no chance of that thing's getting damaged, and we're going to start punishing the AI for shooting us early on. Here, we're just starting to snowball against them. They're only managing to deal a couple damage to my buildings, which, is irrelevant. If it's too much, I'll just repair it. And what you'll see is I'm starting to actually destroy buildings every turn on the AI, which, as I mentioned, gives you a snowball advantage because you're still doing okay. You're still, getting lots of material and energy, but you start destroying them, and then it's just easier and easier to deal damage. So you'll see there we aim our asteroid diversion. The way those work is on the edge of the solar system, you aim them and fire. Luckily, our first one was in a pretty good spot, and you'll see it does some massive damage. 11 buildings destroyed, 13 damaged, 4 cities damaged. That's exactly what I'm looking for. It's so much fun to land those asteroids, and we got lucky, as I said, with the spawn. Because what you'll see in the next few turns is the asteroid is in a really weird spot, and it's really awkward to aim and kind of hard to get. Also, this turn I get gravity well mapping, which gives me more fragments and more AoE for my asteroid diversion. So that's what I'm adding in now because, it's always fun to deal more damage with your giant asteroids hitting the planets. So we got that. We aim it. Doesn't look like anything hits. And this is the turn I actually forget to aim my weapons. I get so excited adding things to my asteroid and then I forget. So here you go, our asteroid diversion's in the same spot, luckily, this turn, and we try to get it into orbit on green, we'll see what happens. And then the rest of these guys, they're all kind of awkward. I'm right near the sun, and there's a bunch of interplanetary bodies, so it's kind of hard to aim. So most of my shots are just a crapshoot, so we'll see what happens. And that's actually an interesting thing to note. If you are an outer planet, like me and green are, it can actually be kind of difficult to aim into the inner solar system because the sun is pulling your shots. There's lots of little planets moving around. So if you're an inner planet, you can actually be kind of safe from the outer planets because of that gravity effect. On the flip side, if you're an inner planet and you're shooting an outer planet, they can be moving quicker and they're farther away, and it can be harder to get your shots into their orbit because, again, you're trying to shoot past the little planets that are orbiting you. So, different planet spawn positions have different advantages and it all balances. Here we get another fat hit with our asteroid diversion on Hubble, and we kill 2 cities with 1 hit, and that's why I like the upgrades we got. It adds more fragments for the meteorite and it increases the area of effect. So we just did massive devastation on him. All of the US got destroyed, coast of Africa again, 7 buildings destroyed. His other 3 cities all got damaged. I gotta say, I don't think Hubble's long for this world. And even as we're adding doing massive damage with our asteroid diversion, we're still adding more coil cannons, more solar planets. You'll see we're at almost 6,000 energy a turn, which is always good. And this is a nice turn for damage. Boom. 4 buildings destroyed and 1 city destroyed just with our coil cannons because we had a perfect aim with them on Hubble. Unfortunately, our asteroids miss, but that's just the way it goes. And he's pretty much knocked out. Now here on turn 29, 6 turns after the asteroid diversion, we get our next super weapon, our solar laser, but we don't quite manage to build it because there's not quite room. And before I start building it, because it's so expensive, I expand my defense network to give it, a nice little spot, and then next turn I'm going to start building it. Here I'm just aiming random coil cannons everywhere because it's a bit awkward. We shoot a meteorite again, and they just miss Hubble, and then it almost hits red, and then that misses him too, so that's unfortunate. We get a shot on us, and we zoom in just in time to see our kinetic defenses popping up, which is good. And unfortunately, when we did our random shots, our first building destroyed actually comes from our own coil cannons, which is a little unfortunate. And it does destroy something which makes our grid a little bit less useful, which is annoying. And then here's another big asteroid impact, and you'll see it absolutely smashes green, destroys a city on him, and then our coil cannons deal the massive damage to red and actually knock him out of the game. So I find that's a really potent combination. You know, a kinetic weapon, be it railguns or coil guns, and then you know, lasers are always useful for wiping out cities. But if someone's prepared and they have the laser defenses, then you might need to switch to something like an asteroid, which is just a lot of fun. And you know, it can be kind of hard to see, or sorry, it can be kind of hard to aim with the asteroid. You know, as you see, I'm only hitting maybe one in third of them, but you know, when they do hit, it does massive damage. And while the solar cannon is, you know, really nice, if it hits, it's going to destroy a city, especially if you have the population upgrade on it. But sometimes it just doesn't quite hit. I'm coming in with my asteroid. I think we're going to have a good hit. Oh, and a lot of them just miss. We just deal a little bit of damage, nothing crazy. But, you know, again, we're destroying his nuclear power plants. He's going to have a hard time. We're only getting minor amounts of damage on us, and nothing's hitting our major infrastructure centers. Again, more asteroids. It's far away, hard to aim, not expecting much. Again, and then here all of our coil cannons are facing the wrong way, so we're just getting a lot of random shots. Ooh, and even though that was a long shot, we actually managed to hit about half of our asteroids, which is really nice. And, you know, as a result, we kill another one of his cities. But, sorry, that city kill was actually from the solar laser, which, again, as I was saying, is nice, because if you're hitting, you're dealing damage. And there, I don't know if you saw that ricochet around the planet almost hit yellow, which is always fun when you get something like that. So now I'm researching nuclear weapons. I go in and check. I say, oh crap, I've let my science lapse, so I'll add it back in. I make sure I have the 10% firing discount project on a few cities, because when you're firing 20 weapons, it does actually add up to quite a bit of energy. We aim our solar laser here and we get a good shot on Hubble, and then we're close to both of them. I have to do kind of awkward shots, so we'll see what happens. But we're splitting it equally. We're a charitable nation. We want everyone to suffer. Okay. Nice. 8 cities destroyed on Hubble, and then these ones, not quite. The gravity messed them up a little. We didn't quite get them. Let's see what happens with the asteroid. Oh, it just misses too. It was so close. And then you'll see here our asteroid diversion. We have to deal with some planets that are just to the right of the asteroid diversion, so that might make it hard to aim, but I go for it anyways. Again, a little bit awkward on the coil cannons. Most of them have to be aimed towards Hubble, as green is just out of the way. And then, as you see, every turn, I'm just adding a solar plant, ooh, and adding more defenses, maybe another coil cannon. As long as I have the material for it, I might as well, and it just increases your energy grid, so it makes it so you have lots of energy to knock up defenses. You see there when we fire our asteroid grid, it just skirted right by the planet. And I gotta say, if you were on your planet at Total War, you gotta have a lot of faith in your weapons engineers and astrophysicists that are aiming these weapons, especially when you see these meteorites hurtling right by you. This turn we have a bit better. I'm able to do some arcing for my coil guns to try and get them, and let's see. Nice. When it's long range, it's nice if you hit just a couple of the asteroids. Obviously you want to be right next to the planet so you can just slam them right in, because that's always satisfying. And then finally here on turn 36, we get our third super weapon, which is the nuke, and I'm making it more population damage and a longer fallout. Actually, sorry, longer lock-on range, just because, with long missiles it can be kind of hard to get it. And what you'll see here is my materials are almost out too, so I'm slowing down a little bit, adding a bit in the reserve, that way just in case something gets damaged, I'm able to repair it if I need to build something or whatever. And here we go, big asteroid. Imagine a third of your planet going up in flames at the same time. That'd be insane. And, I have to say, experimenting this game, I decided to go for coil cannons instead of railguns, and I think my final thought is that railguns definitely are better. Railguns require less research, they're cheaper to build, and the upgrades are cheaper, and I think they have similar effects, and they're a little bit cheaper to fire too, and you just have so many of them, and like I said, you can get them going earlier. I think it's the better way. I think railguns are better than coil cannons. And then, this game I don't really use missiles. Missiles are fun, but they're just so precise, and maybe if you really try, you can just aim for, holy, no, that's what I call a nuke, and coil cannons absolutely obliterating a planet. You'll see we knock him out, Hubble, and we just set his entire atmosphere on fire, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and so I was saying missiles are just too precise. I don't think they damage enough. It's too easy to keep repairing. Whereas, your railguns, you just a couple turns if they all hit, every single building on the planet is damaged, and then after that, you just start destroying a building because then you just can't keeping up. You can only repair a couple buildings each turn because the repair costs are so high, and you can't keep building, and so you kind of stunt them. And then, like I was saying, you throw a laser on, and then you just nuke their cities, and that's the way to go. Nice little bit of a long range shot. Most of them go too far to the left. And let's see, do we get an asteroid? Oh, nice. That was like 7 out of 9 or something. That's a pretty good impact. Destroying 5 more buildings. And it's been over for a long time. Alloy never really stood a chance. He went out early. Hubble, we just absolutely nuked him. We set his atmosphere on fire, which was one of the things people first using nukes were afraid of. And then now we're here with green. Boom. More coil cannons, more nukes, more asteroids. We're just giving him everything. I want him. I want him out. I want this solar system to myself. And that's the good thing. These planets, you just absolutely nuke them, destroy them, and then 100 years later, you go back and the planet's cooled off, the radioactive material's gone, and then you have all these resources to collect. So it's a nice return on your investments. And here we go. I have a beautiful firing arc for my nuke. I try to do something curving with the atmosphere, but again, old reliable. Just aim 100%, lead for the planet. Boom. And what a fitting way to end the game, huh? A single precision nuke taking out the city after just smashing everybody with coil cannons. And there you go. That's it. Pretty clean victory against the AI. Never really stood a chance, and that's just because of that great defensive grid and paying attention. Thanks.